before we shit on the American government and back alley politics and all that, why don't we talk about accountability? Give me 7 hot takes on shit they can do. Everybody, really excited about this conversation with, especially you're listening. We're recording, filming this prior, but you are listening to this podcast as this book is coming out. Food Fix is out today. Please go to your local bookstores or Amazon.com or however you roll. And the gentleman who wrote it is with us here today. So, Mark, why don't you tell the Vayner Nation who you are and what you do, and then why you wrote this book, and then we're gonna jam.
You mean like who I am, the meaning of life, my existential nature?
Yes. Yeah. First, let's tell everybody your name. Let's start with that.
Okay. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman. I'm a physician. I train in family medicine, but have been practicing functional medicine for 25 years, which is the science of health and how to find the root causes of what's wrong with people and get people better by dealing with those.
Instead of throwing medicine at it?
It's not. It's actually the science of health. It's how do you create health? Traditional medicine is focused on diagnosing disease and treating it with a drug, usually, or surgery. Yep. It's a pill for every ill. Yep. Functional medicine is about the science of creating health by understanding the imbalances in the system. What are the toxins, allergens, microbes, stress, poor diet that's driving imbalances, and what are the things you need that you don't get? The right food, nutrients, balance of light, air, water, connection, love, meaning. All that is really how we create health. And it's phenomenal for chronic disease. And I'm also the head of strategy and innovation for the Cleveland Clinic Center for Functional Medicine. I've written 12 New York Times bestsellers. I'm the host of the Doctor's Pharmacy podcast, which is a top 200 podcast. And I'm really on a mission to help get to the end of needless suffering through addressing chronic disease through functional medicine and fixing the food system. Because I've been sitting in my office for 30 years seeing patient after patient who's sick with chronic disease that's caused mostly by food, and it's like being in a boat that's sinking with a bucket trying to bail it. And I finally asked, why are we seeing so many people who are sick? It's food. And why do we have the food we have? It's the food system. And why do we have the food system? It's our food policies. And why do we have our food policies? It's the food industry's influence on policy. There's 187 lobbyists for every member of Congress. It's the #1 lobby group by far, which is the food and ag industry. So that's really, how I've come to what I'm doing now, which is really focusing on food as medicine and food as the solution to so many of our global crises.
It's funny because I'm sitting with you. I'm going to paint a picture for everybody who's listening. I'm sitting with you, and over your shoulder is a wonderful team member of mine, Sanan, who's worked with us for a while, he's doing his best to not have his head fully fall off his body because it's, you're talking and it's something that he's talked to me about personally without knowing exactly, he's talked about his father in Turkey. He's from Turkey. Yeah. He's a great kid. And obviously you're a big buyer of this. And it's fun for me because when I talk about business, I talk about don't fix the sink, fix the well.
Yes.
And so this is, much like I invested in Facebook 1 second into seeing it. When Sanan first came to me, he's like, hey, I want to really help you because I care about you and you're doing everything wrong. And I want you to do this kind of shit. I'm fascinated by the 187 lobbyists to 1. I'm fascinated by the old system of life. Yeah. Government's life.
Yeah.
Media, government, life. How today with social media, everyone's blaming social media for our problems, yet what social media is doing is exposing our truths.
That's true.
And
There's a dark and a light side.
Yeah, the dark and light side because it's a mirror.
Yeah.
And so, it's really funny. You were literally just going through your setup here. I see Sanan in the corner. I'm thinking about, we're in an election year. My profile has risen so much that I get an uncanny amount of direct messages of I think I'm really passionate about insecurity and happiness. And I literally this is really fun. It's really exciting for me, for you, because if I'm hearing your narrative right, the amount of buyers of what you were putting down 25, 30 years ago in comparison,
not too many.
Right. In comparison to today.
Yeah.
But more importantly, in comparison to today, the infrastructure of communication in an internet world, which is the real actual counter to 187 to 1.
Huge.
I'm just literally sitting here starting to get goosebumps of oh, okay, this is really going to be a big fucking deal in 30 years.
It is.
Because we're in halftime right now.
Yeah.
You're for you. This is you.
Yeah.
In your paradigm.
Yeah.
The last, again, 30 years, and so I said it and you laughed. You have very few buyers. You have a lot more buyers now.
Yeah.
And the non-buyers are curious or financially vested interest to put their head in the sand. Or scared. I'm a scared guy. Like, for example, I'm a really funny guy. Like, if I didn't have to go to a doctor ever again in my life, in any shape or form, that would be best for me. And like, I'd rather give up those 23 years of life than go to the doctor. That's how much I hate it. I'm being serious. I'm being very transparent.
But you could also be the CEO of your own health and actually,
listen, there's nothing you're going to say that isn't wrong, and I'm about to say everything that's wrong. Like, I know that to be true because it's the other parallel of my life where I see it in reverse in other areas. So nonetheless, with all that set up from you and then my little rant here, let me take it in a little bit of a different direction because you have me excited. What's going on in this macro converse? Like, are you like, as a human, how old are you?
How old do you think I am?
You said 25, 30 years. You're 53.
60.
Beautiful. Where you are right now, are you pumped because you're like, fuck, something that like was so fucked 30 years ago is clearly on its way?
I'm so excited because the food industry is so screwed up, right? It's causing 6 out of 10 Americans to be sick. It's bankrupting our country. 1 out of every 2 Medicare, $1 out of every $2 in our mandatory federal spending in 5 years will be for Medicare, which is mostly for chronic disease. We're seeing climate change being affected by food. It's the number 1 cause of climate change. We're seeing poverty, social injustice, mental illness, academic challenges in kids, depression, even national security issues because kids are too fat or unfit to fight. These are all in part caused by food. The food industry is the number 1 cause of climate change. So as I look at all these separate problems, I'm so excited because if food was the cause, it's also the cure.
100%.
And we have the power to change all that. I see this all the time in my practice where we take people who have heart failure, diabetes, early kidney failure, fatty liver, all these problems, and we can reverse it with food. But we can't do that with the current food system we have. It has to change. And
so give me
I'll give you a really quick example of why I'm so excited. In the last few days, Burger King launched an ad that showed a big Whopper that went moldy over 34 days, and the punchline was there's no artificial preservatives. Now, it's still a Whopper. It's still not healthy for you, but the idea that
it's a better Whopper than it was 10 years ago.
Fast food company would...
No, you said it right the first time. A fast food country.
Yeah,
keep going.
A fast food country company would lead with... We're cleaning up our food because the consumers are driving the behavior. We're seeing Nestle's doing different things. We're seeing Kellogg saying no more glyphosate in our cereal. We're seeing General Mills, we're going to move 1 million acres into regenerative agriculture, which will bring back the soil and preserve the land and actually help us prevent climate change. It's powerful when you see these companies.
This is a country of currency. This is an entrepreneurial, capitalistic country. Yeah. And the reason I asked you the question, I appreciate your answer, and I was hoping it is because you must be pumped. It's similar to me. Like, in 25 years, when entrepreneurs and business people think being happy and kind is better than having a boat and being a dick face, I'll be happy. And honestly, I'm actually projecting here.
And you know what makes people dick faces? Often what they're eating.
Yes.
Because it inflames their brain. Literally, the science is so clear that mental illness, even violence in prisons, you give violent prisoners healthy food in prisons, the violent crime goes down by 56%, and you give them a vitamin, it goes down by 80%.
Let's make this fun, and let me take this in a couple different places because you're going to do plenty of other podcasts. You have your own. You're going to be able to beat that drum. I want to take this in a little bit of a different direction, meaning a framework that I want to have this combo in. Talk to me about, this is rigid. Give me 5 to 7 bullets that needs to happen at the micro. Before we go into the systematic change that you're passionate about, because I heard you system.
Yes.
We'll go. Honestly, I'm going to ask you because I'm curious.
Yeah.
That's more me. For everybody's listening, because I'm fascinated by this, give me 7 to 12 hot takes, bullets of questions or statements that every single person that's listening right now should think about on a personal level that they can achieve. Because, humans, when they hear 187 lobbyists to 1, immediately go into, fuck, depressing. I can't change it anyway. Yeah. Fuck this. So let's talk about accountability.
Absolutely.
Before we shit on the American government and back alley politics and all that, why don't we talk about accountability? Give me 7 hot takes on shit they can do.
Absolutely.
Go.
So in Food Fix, my book, How to Save Our Health, Our Economy, Our Communities, and Our Planet One Bite at a Time, it's called Food Fix. It's not called Food Apocalypse because it's focused on what we can do and what you can do. And yes, we need the political change, but on a personal level,
yes,
you can focus your diet to become more aspirational towards being a regenitarian. Now, what the heck is that? What is that?
I like that. That sounds like I can live
It's
longer.
very cool.
I want that.
There's a whole different framework. So regenerative agriculture is a way of growing food that grows higher quality food, that builds a soil with organic matter that draws carbon out of the atmosphere. Literally most of the carbon, a third of the carbon that's in the atmosphere today came from the destruction of our soil. We can put it back in the soil, better than rainforest. So it'll help us conserve water. We're losing, water scarcity is a huge thing around the world, and we're seeing floods and droughts. That can be solved by fixing the soil through these methods. It actually can reduce the use of pesticides, fertilizers, and all these harmful things. It's better for the animals because they're grazing around. It increases biodiversity. Our pollinators are dying. 75% are lost. Bees and butterflies. That can be rebuilt through regenerative agriculture. So if you seek out foods from farms that are using these methods, and you can do it at your local farmers market. You can join a community supported agriculture in your community. You can go online and find regenerative meat, for example, from places like Mariposa Ranch, where you can get a pound of meat for an average of $8 a pound, which per serving is probably about the same or less than a McDonald's hamburger. And you can start to look for sources. And you can't be perfect, and nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect, but being aspirational
Where are you
pushes.
most imperfect currently?
Where am I?
What's your favorite thing to be imperfect about? This is powerful.
I think I'm most imperfect about how much I work. I need to really.
Yes.
But the reason I work so hard.
What about what you put in your body food wise? Give me like a Twizzler. Give me something to get.
Never.
I really
a Twizzler never happens.
Give me something. Let's be vulnerable here. Let's
what does happen?
Because this will encourage them to do better.
Is ice cream. I have a couple of times a year. I'll dig into ice cream.
And let me ask you a question. When you eat ice cream, are you like doing it at home because you're like, fuck, if I'm outside and somebody takes a photo.
I had to tell you the funniest story. So,
give it to me.
So I was at a medical conference at Harvard and Tufts, and the dean of the Tufts School of Nutrition, the former CEO of Whole Foods, one of the leading sort of scientists in food as medicine was there.
Yeah, it's like
and
a
it was
legit
just
thing.
And we were with five of us, like we're like buddies, and we're like, all right, we're gonna sneak out from this conference and we're gonna go get gelato. And I'm sitting there on the corner eating gelato, and this woman comes up. She's Dr. Hyman. I'm like, oh shit, I'm busted. I'm busted. But
it's powerful to talk about that, though. I think most people break down. It's funny.
I eat real food. Where I don't eat industrial food. So in other words, if it's some product that was made in a factory that's an industrial food that's not real food, I generally won't eat it. But I will eat sweets sometimes. I'll have a cake, or I'll have a chocolate, or I'll have ice cream.
So you have enough of a sweet tooth that's the battle, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty. When the thing is, when you regulate your biology, you don't really want that stuff anymore. You crave like vegetables, and it sounds crazy, but yes, you can crave vegetables.
I love that. That's always been an easy one for me.
So those are some simple fixes, and then you can help end food waste. Food waste is crazy. We waste a pound of food for every person every day in this country. It's 40% of our food, and globally, it's 40%. It's the food that would need to be grown on a landmass the size of China. It's over $2 trillion of waste, and that's not the worst part.
How does one do that? So
the worst part, I'll tell you, the worst part is we throw our scraps and our food, the waste, into landfills. We throw it into landfills where it creates methane that's 25 times more potent a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And
so what can Zach do?
It's a huge contributor to climate change.
So what can Zach do?
So what Zach can do
Looks
is
nice and tan.
He can, if he lives in the city, he can get a little in-apartment composter where you throw your food scraps and it turns it into this incredible humus soil that you can give to your local farmer's market. I'm sure the farmers will take it.
How do we get people to not hear that's annoying as shit?
We have actually. Honestly, I'm moving into a new apartment building, and there's a composting thing. So in San Francisco, it's mandatory. You get a fine if you don't compost. In France, it's mandatory. You go to jail, or you get a fine if you don't compost. In Massachusetts,
jail sounds good.
Yeah, jail's good.
No, honestly, we need to get into like jail. I don't know. No, I think about this. I'll tell you why I'm jumping on that. I've been thinking a lot about. I think we need more dictate. Like, I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it's true.
We need more dictatorship. I think a lot of what America at this maturity of an empire is caught with, why we're so extreme in left and right, is like there needs to be thoughtful jailing.
Yeah, well, in America,
like, for example, recycling.
The FDA,
we're supposed to recycle too.
Yes.
Many people do not.
Yes, they don't.
And because nothing works when there's no ramifications. Let me promise you something right now. If everybody got a ticket, like a DM all of a sudden with like a bill that like you had to pay like a parking ticket because it was easy to see that you didn't recycle in your building, I have a funny feeling people would quickly...
Sure.
The reason nobody cares about privacy, you know how my tech world, like in society now we talk about privacy is because nobody's money is getting taken away forever. So that's why you keep throwing around your information. There's no actual ramifications.
Consequences.
No consequences.
Well, there are. They're just more invisible, right?
Yes.
Our free will is being usurped by targeted digital strategies.
Is it? Because
look what happened last election. You know, we had...
No, let's talk about that. Like you didn't pull it. Like when you watch CNBC, when you watch CNN or Fox, you're making that choice. Like you're making choices.
It's true, but there's a lot of stealth stuff going on. I mean, there's 3 billion data points that a lot of these companies that are selling and purchasing it and selling it to digital marketers, which is fine to sell you shoes, but it's different when it's trying to persuade you to join a rally.
But it's not trying to persuade you. Let's explain. If you're going in a feed and somebody knows that it has data around what you've been doing and it presents something to you,
you know that. Right, but if your digital feed is, for example, like what Cambridge Analytica did, which is digital targeted political marketing, that you target your personality weaknesses, that makes you do things based on your fear, and they know exactly how to manipulate you based on your personality profiles, and you think you're acting out of free will. That's the part I have a problem with. And the food industry
but real quick on that, one could argue that that's about every single thing that happens, period. I mean, then you have a major problem with the insurance business, right? Completely, the whole thing. Because that's completely
based on fear. It's true, but
you must also hate parenting. All global. You must be the biggest descendant of parenting, period, because the entire structure is 90% fear based.
Well, I don't think that's a good way to raise your kids. Is terrifying them.
Nor do I. But I think, but I think what's really interesting is, I think instead of going into this portal that we're not in control, what we need to have a bigger conversation about is accountability.
Yes, we can't.
Because if you're selling Food Fix,
yes, then
you better really also in equal parallel understand that targeting, like we're talking about one in the same game, right? Yes, in the fact of like the unlock to all this actually is starting to get into an ecosystem where we do feel in control.
Yeah, absolutely. But some people, it's hard. I'm working in Cleveland, and I talked to this young woman who lived in East Cleveland, a very poor area. There were no grocery stores anywhere near her. Her mother saw her, her aunt and her uncle get their limbs amputated from diabetes. She wanted to feed her kids healthy food. She had to take 2 buses an hour each way just to buy vegetables.
I respect that.
I mean, that's the challenge. And all they have around their neighborhood is processed food and soda. They're specifically targeted by the food industry. It's really insidious.
You know what's really interesting about that? You know where my head just went on that for a fruitful conversation? It's so interesting that we talk about how businesses are being incentivized to follow consumer behavior. Like my brain, I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. When I heard that, I'm like, ooh, I want to open a fresh market there. Like this is a really interesting conversation about like the right balance of policy versus entrepreneurship. And it all leads to just education. It's just macro awareness. Like what I'm so passionate about of what you're doing, both in your podcast, this like what we're doing right now, it's just awareness, right? Like I'm even weirded out. Like it's crazy how like placebo or like awareness, like I'm like feeling weird to even drink this coffee.
You can drink your coffee.
But actually I'm saying it in a good way. Like I get the feedback from a lot of people, like I'm listening to you over and over, and I'm actually now not enjoying negative people around me, and I'm like, shit, that's what I need to do for myself around my week. Like if I just kept listening to you, I would like that's real life actually. Right. Like to me it's like, how do we get things to actually happen? And I actually think that we need
How do we get people to change their behavior?
I think good intent people like you and I think a lot about making something good happen. Right? Yeah. It's just like in us. It's just our DNA, the luck of the DNA draw. Yeah. We want it. It feels good. Yeah. The admiration, the legacy, like it's the behavior that we run it, right? Yeah. I understand it. I have my own slight version of it in a different place. I think we think a lot about systematic scale, right? We spend time thinking about systems, and I'm listening to you. Like if she doesn't have access, like I get it. Ironically, what I'm proposing for debate and conversation is what if, because we've watched that happen for the last 70, 80 years, that American conversation around systematic. Yeah. And I'm like, I wonder if we also really start thinking about on an individual basis level too.
We have to. I mean, it's individual, but it's also structural, right? If 60% of the calories in America are ultra-processed food that kill 11 million people a year, it's because the government is funding the growth of those crops, corn, soy, and wheat that are turned into processed food.
Instead of fighting 187 versus 1, if we started disproportionately over-focusing on it, by the way,
that's what I agree.
Burger King gave a fuck about that Whopper until the customer started caring.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's why I'm excited, because I think the individuals making change in their life and having that voice drives businesses to change their products, to change their behavior.
Businesses are so moldable. They don't give a shit. They just want to do what the customer wants.
Well, that's right. And that's why it's so empowering in this book, because people actually can do a lot of things that drive the marketplace, that drive what food companies are doing, that drive their own health to be better and their own communities and their own family to be better.
What's an underrated, terrible thing all of us are doing? Like something kind of unusual. Like you're in this world. Like give me like a, you think this is decent, but we're getting, like what's a thematic that you're, like for example, I'm very undereducated in this, but like all the new like bars that seem healthy that are worse than a Snicker.
Let's talk about plant-based meats.
Good, there we go.
Because that's a big one.
That's a good one. That I'm excited. I knew this was a good question.
This is a great question. Okay, so we all want to do a good thing.
Yeah.
We hear that the cows are the equivalent of the atom bomb, destroying the planet with their methane burps and the whole factory farming, which is true, and that should be banned. And the alternative is plant-based meats, Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat.
Yes.
And they're both a little different, but we think we're doing a good thing. But when you, for example, dissect Impossible Burger, one, it's GMO soy, so it's grown in a way that destructs.
Hold on, I apologize for your rant, and everyone's going to make fun of me and be mad at me. But Dust, when you just shook your head on that, you know this to be true, or you just think what he's saying is interesting?
I know Impossible Burger isn't the same as Beyond.
Beyond Meat, right?
As far as like the ingredients.
Yeah, they're both highly processed foods. So
you're down on those two things.
Well, let me explain why.
No. By the way, I know you're going to, and I'm going to allow you to, even though I like to interrupt. You are.
I haven't noticed that.
You're down. You're down on those two things.
I am down on industrial processed food,
which those two are,
and I think the Beyond Meat is a little bit better because it's pea protein, and it's a little bit different than the GMO soy. But the GMO soy is grown in a way that's destructive to the environment, that destroys the soil, that puts glyphosate, which is extremely toxic, causes cancer, and destroys your microbiome, into the food. And it has 47 novel proteins that have never been tested in humans. It's got a strange form of yeast.
I know nothing, but I hear 47 never tested on humans. I'm already like, that's.
And I'm like, and they're promoting it as a health food. If you want to not eat meat and you want to try it once in a while, fine. It's not going to kill you. But if you make it a staple, there's 110 times the amount of glyphosate in an Impossible Burger than would be required to destroy the microbiome of animals. And glyphosate is Roundup.
Back to a common man. Go ahead. You had
so it's Roundup, which is basically a weed killer that you got in your burger, and that has real harmful effects. And it does reduce the amount of climate change contribution compared to a factory farm burger. But if you look at regenerative burgers, which is cows that are grass finished and grown in certain ways that restore the land, restore everything. A regeneratively raised burger, based on a life cycle analysis of both of those, would reduce carbon by 3.5 kilos of carbon per burger, versus the Impossible Burger adds 3.5 kilos. So you'd have to eat one meat burger to offset the plant-based burger in terms of carbon emissions.
What is it?
Regeneratively raised burger. Which is basically grass-fed, but grown in a way that actually restores the soil, restores the ecosystem.
And you earlier mentioned that the cost of that product is not very prohibitive?
You can get it much cheaper. Yes, now it's not as prevalent. It can be scaled. In fact, the UN said that if we do this type of agriculture, and we take 2 million of the 5 million degraded hectares of land around the world and turn it into regenerative agriculture, which would cost $300 billion, which is less than we spend in Medicare on diabetes every year. And basically the military spends on the entire world for 60 days, that we could stop climate change for 20 years, just simply by doing that form of agriculture. So if we buy those things, we're going to be pushing, and that's why Nestle
who's stopping the growth of regenerative? Like who's
nobody is growing like crazy. Nestle and Danone, General Mills, they're all pushing this.
Do you believe this is just a matter of time, or
it's just a matter of time? Yep. This is going to happen. There's so many.
So you care on an individual basis, right? Like you care for the ones like me at 44. It's like, hey, the 6-year-olds are going to benefit from this because it's going to be the thing. Wake up, you can get some real benefits from it if you get on board.
I mean, we have 60 harvests left of food according to the UN because of the way we're destroying the soil. Like we've lost most of our topsoil. It's a huge contributor to climate change. It can all be fixed by choosing to buy foods and driving the marketplace with your choices towards regenerative agriculture.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I've been listening to you communicate. One thing that I find really fascinating, and I like it, do you feel like, I think about this a lot, do you feel like you're excited because there's a lot of things that people are thinking about, and if you can use the human on the other side that's listening right now, if she or he is excited about climate change, that you can use that as the gateway for them to
It can be climate
healthier.
change. It can be
Like,
their
I'm
own.
listening
It can
to you
be
and you're
their
like
own
throwing-
health. It can be caring about social justice. It can be caring about our economy.
You don't give a shit. You just want them to be better.
I want people to understand the situation we're in and take action and realize how powerful they are to make a difference, but also how they need to use their fork and vote with their fork. They need to vote with their voice. They need to vote with their wallet, and they need to vote with their vote. And I think people are apathetic, but we have so much power. Like you said, Burger King doesn't give a shit about taking the crap out of their food, but they care because the consumer cares.
They should. Like people, like when I say they shouldn't, they should. But like you're asking people to do things that you wouldn't do. Like people care about their kid more than somebody else's kid. It's real life. It's human. Another point, when you were talking, because when you don't want to do shit, you're looking for excuses. So that's good. I don't want to eat. Like, I don't mind. I like good food, like healthy food. So I'm a little bit lucky. I just need to be disciplined. I'm just like a picker and get ridiculous sometimes. Let me ask you a question. One of the things that I get fascinated by is when you were talking, I was like, ooh, there it is. And what you said was like, look, if you want it a couple of times, it's not going to kill you, which we love to hear, right? We're like, you're saying the doctor said I can eat this shit occasionally. And what is a lot of times, and like once a week, once a month, once a year? Yeah. Talk to me about something we should consistently eat. The reverse. What is a great thing that you can never eat too much of? Go. Well, is there such a thing? Or does every human have to be broken down and based on your own DNA?
If you ate 20 pounds of broccoli, you'd probably get sick and your colon would stop up. I mean, it's all...
20 pounds of one shot or 20 pounds
one shot.
Okay. No, because listen, I can eat a lot of broccoli. Listen, I'm like broccoli.
Somebody can have a big gulp in one shot. Right, that's 750 calories. You want to eat 750 calories of broccoli. It's 21 cups of broccoli. Good luck with that, right?
I'm going to do it. I'm going to take this clip.
It's like, no, hot dog eating contest is a broccoli eating. A broccoli eating contest.
I want to have a broccoli eating contest. Are vegetables just like a winner?
It's unlimited. I say you get unlimited refills. You can eat all the vegetables you want until you can't eat anymore, and you'll never get into trouble. God,
I really like that. I really like vegetables a lot.
Yeah. It's powerful. That's what I had for lunch.
Is fruit a little bit different because of the amount of sugar?
Yeah, fruit. You don't want to have unlimited amounts of fruit. I mean, unless you're an athlete and really active.
What's the best unlimited fruit? Is there such
berries?
A thing? Berries.
Berries are good because they're low in sugar. They're high in phytochemicals. They're super nutritionally dense. And I think we're in this moment in time where we have so many crises, there's so many silos, and there's so many problems, and people feel disempowered. There's climate change, and there's chronic disease, and there's the economic issues, and the social justice issues, and all these problems, the environmental issues, and all of them are linked by food. And that's where we have so much leverage that we can actually use to change the system, both on our own lives, in our families, in our kitchens, in our communities, but also acting politically. Why do you think the gay marriage is now legal? Why do you think there's civil rights and women's rights? Why did abolition happen? Because people cared about it. It wasn't something that started in Congress and ended in Congress.
Never starts in Congress.
Right. It never
They're
starts.
on defense.
That's right. So
self-serving.
Exactly.
By the way, as they should. Humans.
Yeah.
Humans don't bother me with their So I understand.
Humans don't bother you?
I love humans. I mean, I understand it.
Yeah.
I think our biggest weakness, before you get to food, get a relationship with judgment, which will actually lead you to understand food.
Yes.
Our relationship with judgment. A lot of politicians aren't capable of doing anything else.
Yeah.
They're career politicians. And if they get voted out, they're scared.
Yeah.
I understand that's logical. No different than every other person listening right now.
Well, we have to make it in their self-interest by having the voter and their constituents
That's based on us.
Speak out.
That's based on us.
Yes, 100%. I mean, there's a great...
You know how many 18 to 24-year-olds are
never voted?
Never voted? Do you know how many of them are not going to vote right now that tweet every day political stuff?
Yeah.
Do you know in November how devastated
it's terrible.
Anybody that gives a shit about kids voting are going to be? The kids' turnout is going to be non-existent.
Yeah, we need to change that. Just we have the right to vote, which is a rare thing in the world.
By the way, that sentence isn't doing shit. We've been doing that for 40 years.
Oh, I know.
No, Doctor, I think this is really the point here, because I'm like sitting here and being very selfish. I'm like, how am I going to use you talking and Sinan in the corner of my eye right now as a catalyst for me to get disproportionately better? I've gotten better. I can get a lot better. He's talking to me about like the sheets I fucking sleep in and fucking airplanes and I'm like, I believe him. By the way, he sits here and I'm like, he's right. Without knowing anything, he walks out. I'm going to my next meeting. I'm like, he's 100%. I know it because he's looking and I'm not looking. It's like anything else. But we have to. Individuals like you and I who are lucky enough to amass audiences have to have more thoughtful debates about things like, I promise you one thing, more than I know that the sun will come up tomorrow. Telling 18-year-olds that they are lucky for the right to vote is a 70-year
I agree.
So let's stop. Let's start punching them in the face.
But they care about their future. Else. They care about climate change. They care about
it on Twitter, but they don't want to go and register. We need to have this conversation. Like, do you think I want to die? I surely don't. And I'd like to be dramatically more educated about what the fuck you're talking about, because I'm fundamentally convinced, sitting in this room, that you could extend my life by 7.5 years if respect. Yeah. So like, we need to when are we eventually going to actually figure this out and understand how this really works, which is you have to do the other what we're trying to do for the last 50 years is not working when we go into guilt. Hey kids, feel guilty. There's countries. I was born in the Soviet Union.
Right. Eat everything on your plate. There's starving kids in China. I get it.
I was born in the Soviet Union. Very easy for me to connect to my incredible luxury of being able to vote. And I have. But like, I do many other things that I should be doing that I don't. I think the question that we need to start talking about, both in food, and we've got a little more macro here, is what's our off-speed pitch? Because what we've separated into is two camps that, no question, if we mix the two, there's a lot of good in it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of bad in both. And like, what's the new age way to like you've been doing this for 35 years. The consumer is starting to get you optimistic. It never was going to come from the systematic change. Good news, 187 to 1 is about to be 213 to 1. And you know it, and I know it. So how are we going to fucking hack it?
I actually am working on that. I have an elite group of Washington insiders who helped Bono launch the One campaign, which got $87 billion in appropriations for AIDS in Africa, where most lawmakers didn't give a crap about that. And they did it through being Washington insiders and knowing in a Machiavellian way how to manipulate lawmakers. I hate to say that, but they know what they need. They know what's in their constituency. They know what they're going to vote for. They know what they're not going to vote for. They know what their pain points are. They know what their issues are excited about. And so it's literally a very deliberate strategy. It's a nonprofit and it's an advocate. So I started a lobby group because I'm sick and tired of like having only the good guys be sitting around talking on the outside and not on the inside. In fact, I was with the guy who was the head of the Obama administration's food policy, Sam Cass, and he said, Mark, what was striking to me was every day people would come in from the lobby groups and they would have these briefing books with 50 different regulations and legislative acts already written and all the justification, and they would give it to the lawmakers and they wouldn't be having time to figure it all out, so they would go kind of follow along with it. And he said, and the whole time we were there wasn't one good guy who came in and said, we want to improve the food system and do this, an advocacy group for the good guys. So that's what we're doing. So
you got to play within the system.
You have to do both. You have to drive a grassroots effort, which we're doing through a nonprofit, the Food Fix campaign, and we're doing it through the Food Fix Action. And it's a fool's errand maybe. I'm Don Quixote, shouting at windmills, but I can't not help it because I see the massive nature of the problem. I see my kids' future threatened. I see the threat. It's like I feel like I'm on the beach and there's a tsunami coming. Everybody's getting a suntan. I'm like, hey, wake up, everybody! We got to get on this.
Why do you think that it's so hard for people to believe those macro doomsday things? Like, it's
hard because it's not. It doesn't feel real. Like you look out, it feels good.
Actually,
the weather's nice.
Where I just went?
Yeah.
If somebody's listening can do this for me, can somebody pull up the articles that clearly must have been in a newspaper? I'm trying to think back when this. I need to understand the Black Plague more. I bring it up a lot. I'd like to understand what the articles were. The only comp I can think of that I've had conversations about this was Hitler, right? Yeah. I've talked to people old enough who've studied enough who can really like physically show me the articles written of like, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's going to be okay. And then it did it. Like, I think what people need is a black and white example.
But I have hope because during World War II, this country came together to fight a common enemy. It was sort of like the.
It's what we're great at.
But it did it in a very interesting way. You know, all the Americans had to turn their lights out at dark.
Yep.
All the Americans had to ration food. All the Americans had to have victory gardens. 40% of the food produced in America was from victory gardens. The Americans gave so much in terms of sacrifice and reduction in their material benefits and their efforts and their money to help save the world. And they did it because they saw this common threat and enemy. We don't see that today.
Let's stick here for a second, though. They also saw that their son was going to France.
Yes.
We have to figure out how to make this selfish. This nobody turned off their light. They turned off their lights because John went to fucking war.
Yeah.
And they were scared fuckless that their son was going to die.
Yeah.
Like, we have to, as a good guys, we have to figure out how to make this shit selfish.
Yeah.
Because this selfless act is going to play out on Twitter, and everyone's going to look at everybody else and not vote.
Well, you know,
I mean, 90% of my audience is under 30, and 80% of them are not registered to vote right now. Straight talk.
Yeah. Well, get on it, guys.
But get on it. Said, fuck you, doctor. I don't give a shit. I've got $13,000 in debt. Like,
how many guys in this room are registered to vote?
Let's go honest here. There we go. I appreciate the yeah.
You got
right. Like, I love you. I love you for not raising your hand. And by the way, no judgment. This is back to judgment. I have no judgment. Zero. I think we have to. Us saying to them, get on it. Listen,
Gary, it's your job. You're a digital marketing expert.
You'll appreciate this. It's what I'm doing right now in the micro. What I'm doing right now is actually what I'm asking for all of us to debate more.
Yeah.
Me making this conversation about this is the punchline, which is like, I know that guilt doesn't work.
No.
Fear does.
Fear works, right?
Fear works. And I also know that what I love about you and have admired from afar and why, listen, you're at Vayner Speaker. We looked at 1 million names.
Yeah.
I like people who populate information. Like, I like that you're a human media company. Yeah. I like that you do a book. I do books. I'm a digital guy.
Yeah.
I like that you do podcasts. Where I'm conversating with you because I respect you is.
Even though you told me to fuck off.
When I say fuck off, doctor, I'm talking about them on the other side because they do it to me all the time.
I'm just teasing.
No, I know you are. But Mark, listen, I read 100 comments of fuck you, Gary.
Yeah.
Like, you talk about people, like, I'd love to cry in my Bentley. I don't have money. I'm like, because you don't know what crying in a Bentley looks like.
Right.
Like, you have to change your perspective.
Yeah.
I spend my time trying to figure out the off-speed pitch. The people I admire the most, you included, that are out there, are throwing fastballs.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out how to
slow ball.
Add to the repertoire, because what I know is that we're talking down and it's not adding in results.
Well, you know,
does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I'm trying to use this moment, like, through our two energies to maybe populate something in my thought, hear you, listen for you. Like, what's our off-speed pitch? Because we need it, because you know what's going to happen.
Well, like everybody knows people in their family and their life who are sick from food and who get it and who are suffering. And that's where the pain is for most people, whether it's mental illness. I mean, 2 days ago, one of my wife's good friends just committed suicide.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And we see, for example, in studies that kids who can switch from junk food to healthy food, who are teenagers, reduce suicide by 100%. And suicide is the third leading cause of death in teenagers.
Kids, yep.
So like, we know there's so much suffering out there, and if people got the connection between food and all these issues, it's a big deal. Why are we having so much conflict and divisiveness? Because it screws up our brains and our ability to actually have the adult in the room. Our reptile brain is the reactive, impulsive, fighting, aggressive brain. That is not getting moderated by the adult in the room when there's a diet that's causing inflammation in the brain. This is a scientific fact.
I believe you.
So this on so many levels is important.
Because of all this, I'm listening to you, are you more concerned about the Impossibles and the candy, the bar that looked like but stick with me for a second. It's not that we're picking on them. Let me ask it a different way. The trend of the last decade, where foods are positioned to look healthy but are just as unhealthy as, like, I would argue, listening to you, I'm like, oh wow, he must be more upset at a Kind bar than a Snickers bar, because the brand of, and let's not just use those two. I'm just saying there's a very clear movement. I decided to start losing. My first move was exercise and at least understand calories. It was that basic 6 years ago for me, and now I'm evolving. And what was fun through that journey is like, oh, these are tricky. They look super healthy, but those are the same numbers I see on the stuff that's the shittiest of shit or supposed to be.
Right.
That to me is actually a very interesting current state of the market, where I think there's a lot of people listening right now that feel pretty decent about their choices.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you can go to Whole Foods and get a lot of junk. I mean,
correct.
It's got less preservatives, less toxic ingredients.
Nicer. It looks like your fucking book cover, but actually on the data,
it can be full of sugar and starch and things that really make people not great. I mean, it's certainly better than what you're eating in traditional grocery store, but it's not necessarily a health food.
Yeah, no, that's where this is getting interesting. What in the old world, like what is? I love history. It's the one like when you or maybe you haven't done this, when your contemporaries or other people you respect. What have we learned about those European years where we didn't have as much of this kind of food, where it was more market and the bazaar? Like, what's that data show? Like,
the data is so clear. And people who eat traditional diets live a lot longer. They feel better. There's less obesity.
A traditional diet. Explain that.
I mean, it didn't come from a factory. It came from a farm. It's pretty simple. People ate real food grown in real soil. I mean, if you eat broccoli today, it's got 50% less nutrients than it did 50 years ago in 1970 when I was 10 years old, because of how we grow the food and the depletion of the soil. So period. So I would say.
So where can I buy broccoli that is as good as the 10-year-old you got?
You can go to your local farmer's market and maybe find someone who's got an organic regenerative farm that's actually enriched soil, because the soil is what makes the food healthy. It's what makes it taste good. I mean, I was just having dinner with a friend who just got back from Rwanda and said the soil was amazing. 80% of the people are farmers. They're subsistence farmers. The flavors, the juices, the colors were so amazing because it was actually food that was not industrial food, which is what most of us eat in the world now.
For everybody who's listening, not watching, just a fun fact. When he asked me how old did you think I was, there was a really smart reason he asked that. I went even a little bit high because I knew what he was trying to do. If you're somebody, let me give the 3 people that might go with this. He looks fucking phenomenal. And so maybe one of the, a lot of you are vain fuckers. And like, if you don't like all the other stuff, like you don't give a shit about the environment or life or anything else, and you just want to look better for longer, there's that.
Well, there's that. True. I mean, I want to live to be 120. My friend, David Asprey wants to live to 180. I'm not sure about that yet. We'll see. But I did my biological. You want to go to 120
at
least. My biological age, I'm 60, is 39.
Is that true?
Yes, I checked my telomeres. My biological age is 39.
Did all this good eating give you really pretty eyes too, or is that was just luck?
I think I was born with.
There's some nice looking eyes. I like them.
I only know
in my helter-skelter nature and I use it to try to find different insights. Because listen, for everybody who's mad at me for cutting off the great Dr. Mark Hyman, good news. He does 800 fucking other podcasts, and they all have the same structure, and you can go listen to that. In my great hope to find different angles to great insights. What didn't we touch on that you'd like to hit on before we get out of here?
Oh gosh, I just want people to understand that, it's sort of like whether you mentioned Nazi Germany. Imagine a Holocaust of people dying every year. We're just not paying attention. Everybody's freaked out about coronavirus.
Right.
I want a few.
Right. I love you for this. Keep going.
I mean, like 11 million people a year. I think that's conservative. And we're asleep. It's like we're like the Jews in Nazi Germany.
Yep.
When they marched into Poland, where my ancestors were shot to death in their home and in concentration camps. We're like that, and we don't believe that this is happening. We're sort of in this dark space of invisibility. And I just hope that people wake up to understand that they have power to change this, that this is not a joke, this is not a dress rehearsal, that our own personal interests are at stake, our ability to thrive and have healthy lives, and our families to be healthy and not have them ridden by chronic disease, and the planet. I hate to say it, but we live in this thing, and there's if you look from space, there's no borders anywhere. Yep. I mean, I literally was sitting with a guy 2 days ago on a couch who was the Minister of Tourism for Tahiti, and he said they are aggressively strategizing, building, and designing floating cities, because in a few years their entire countries are going to be underwater. Yep. Like, this is real, guys. And Miami's got octopus in the parking lots. Miami. So
which I'm weirdly happy about, because fuck the dolphins. And when Miami goes underwater, that should be 2 automatic jet wins. So if the NFL's listening, not to shed too much light on a serious conversation, but that'll be good. I'm happy about that. I want to be 2-0.
Yeah, that might have to be the,
No, but really, I mean, it's funny, right? Because again, the reason I bring that up is A, a little bit for the Jets joke for my fans, and really when I say my fans, I mean me. I just wanted to make that joke for myself. But B, much more importantly, like, we're very insular. Whole lot of people listening don't have passports or have never been. Like, you don't need Tahiti. It's called Miami.
Yeah.
You been to Miami? All of a sudden, and that's where I'm going a little bit with John going to war.
Yeah.
The thing that is very clear to me, historically, is how do we make this selfish?
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And what's interesting is your subject should not be as hard as other things.
No.
This one's pretty blatant. Do you want to live longer? That seems selfish, but for some reason, it's not connecting to the level that I think it should as somebody who's actually living that. So I'm like,
well, I think the understanding. I mean, in medicine.
I hate medicine.
There's very little understanding that food is the biggest cause of these chronic diseases, and it's the cure. And I think most people don't hear from their doctors. They don't realize, I have diabetes, I have heart failure, I have autoimmune diseases, I have chronic digestive issues, I have headaches and migraines and this and that and the other thing. And they think, this is just what I got. No, it's guaranteed most of it is caused by our crappy diet.
So don't eat, for all the basic guys and gals like me, to wrap up, don't eat things from factories.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
If it was made in a plant, don't eat it. If it was grown in a plant, you can eat it.
That's your little. You have that? Do you have that hoodie? Do you have a hoodie that says that?
No, that's from Michael Pollan.
That's good. That's a good one. So that's it.
I have another simple. I have another simple one. If you believe in God or nature, if you don't believe in God, ask yourself a question whenever you're going to eat something. Did God make this or did man make this? Did God make a Twinkie? No. Did he make an avocado? Yeah.
But you just told me an avocado potentially is so much shittier. So there's
Why is it not? Well,
you told me the broccoli's fucking way worse than 1959.
Yes, it's true.
So
we need to get back to a better food system to grow better food. But it's still better than Twinkie.
Fair enough. But like I'm lucky enough to live in New York City, and back to your story of 2 buses, that's hard. But the far majority of people listening right now have options. So for us that do have options, how do we need to think about the thing? I'm like, God made that banana, but let me tell you when I actually first started paying attention. I'm like, out of nowhere, a decade ago, I'm like, I don't remember blueberries being this big.
Yeah.
Like when Barry Bonds and McGuire started hitting homers, I'm like, these fucking blueberries are big as fuck.
Yeah.
And
they must be taking steroids.
100%. So what about that? Talk to me about that within the broccoli and the blueberries that look like fucking Hulk.
Most of our crops are gone. We had literally hundreds and hundreds of species of plants. We had hundreds of varieties of apples. Now there's basically 3 plants that we eat: corn, wheat, and soy. That's 60% of our calories. And there's about 12 plants that make up the rest of our diet. And most of those are grown in ways that are for shelf stable, or for transport, or for size, and not for flavor, and not for nutrition, and not for actually health. And I think that's why we're seeing this sort of our depleted diet. And when you go to a foreign country, you go to their markets and you see stuff you never saw. You see foods that look so strange. You see incredible flavors. I mean, even like the fingerling potatoes, David Boulay, who's a chef here in New York, brought them from Peru. People are like, what is this? But it turned out to be so much more nutritious, so much more flavorful.
You know where this is going, right? War. I hear you talking right now, I'm like, fuck. I hope this doesn't happen during my watch, but if this is how it's going to be, this is going to be a resource war game, and we're going to be like, this is just what happens.
Yeah.
No different than gold, and this is just what's going to happen.
I mean, honestly, you're right. You're right. I mean, you have no idea how bad it is, because the way we're growing food is destroying our ability to grow food. Why? Because it causes climate change. It degrades the soil. And so the food insecurity issues are going to be huge. And then the climate refugees, the Syrian refugee crisis was 1 million Syrian refugees. We're talking, according to the UN, 200 million to 1 billion climate refugees within a few years. What are we going to do with all those people? That's going to create political instability. That's going to cause war. That's going to cause violence. I mean, they're coming over here. I mean, we've got to figure this out.
Final point. If people are buying what you're putting down, is this, I'm a simple man, is this hey, get a little more educated on how you can eat from farms or things that like.
Yeah, there's really something. So on foodfixbook.com, there's a downloadable action guide.
Okay.
All the 20 actions you can take to make a difference for yourself and your food system. And if you want to get politically involved, how to do that, what to advocate for. If you want to go in your schools and get your schools eating healthier food, how to do that. If you want to go to your local community, city council and say, we want a composting ordinance in our town. There's simple things you can do as individuals that make a huge difference. And we're seeing it. I mean, when I saw that Burger King ad, I was like, yes,
What about
we
fasting?
are winning. Fasting, well, that's a whole other topic. But
give me your 12 seconds.
Okay, so
you into that or no?
Yes. So
do you fast?
I do.
How often?
I do maybe an actual whole day fast, maybe once a month.
Okay.
But I usually do what we call time restricted eating, which is within an 8-hour window.
Okay.
So I'll sort of eat dinner, finish by 7. You can eat by 11 the next day. It's not that hard.
No.
And what that does is it activates all the repair and healing mechanisms in your body that slow aging, that lose belly fat, that build muscle, that increase your cognitive function, that build bone density, that reduce inflammation, that activate your antioxidant systems. So it's a powerful tool that is not about changing what you eat, but changing when you eat.
So the 11:30 p.m. hardcore big dinner
Bad
and the
news.
6 a.m. donut.
Bad news. Bad news.
Okay.
Don't eat 3 hours before bed,
You
and make sure you give yourself. I mean, why do they call it breakfast? Break fast. But if we all eat all night long, then even wake up, we're not doing that. Our bodies.
Breakfast is the best meal of the day, or you think that was good
You
propaganda?
can do the time restricted eating anytime. You can do it from 6 in the morning
my mission's done.
till 2 in the afternoon.
That just made my fucking day.
You can do whatever you want.
Doctor, thank you so much.
Thank you.